listening to the Pump Take Basketball Show with Marco Goldblatt and Kale Meyer.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We're watching another episode of the Basketball Pump Take Sports podcast. Today I'm here with Marco, and for this episode, we're going to be trying something a little bit different. As you can probably see by my screen here, we have this nice little grid of 30 squares put up, and today we're going to be redrafting the 2017 NBA draft class, just with who we think the best players of the draft are. We're going to be spanning into the second round as well and moving some of those guys up and just sort of rearranging the draft. So with that, Marco, do you want to start us off with the first pick?
Yeah, man. I'm excited. We've never really done something like this, so yeah, it'll be fun.
It's cool to finally have a nice little visual, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was about time. And keep in mind, these are just our opinions. You know, we're just two idiots that like sports, so you know, we're about as qualified to talk about this as the next guy. We just have a podcast to do so.
As you in the comments, argue with us.
Yeah, please argue with us. Like, we want to know your opinions. We want to know, like, if you think we're dumb, like, tell us. You know, like, it's good. It's good.
All right, so, Marcos, start us off here.
All right, so with the first overall pick, we are going to take Malik. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's pretty basic. It's pretty a common understanding from this draft that Jason Tatum out of Duke should be the first overall pick. I don't think much needs to be said. There's some people that could think Donovan Mitchell, maybe some people that could think, Bam or De'Aaron Fox or someone. But however, I think we're pretty.
Yeah. There's not much that really needs to be said about this pick, but because like overall, I think the consensus is that it's Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
However, it does speak to how good this draft class kind of is that you can have the argument for some of those other guys in the top five, like you said, like De'Aaron Fox and Donovan Mitchell, who they to a lesser extent they have the same attributes that Jason Tatum has, that we're putting him one, that they have that superstar potential, that they've shown that they have that X factor, that they can just lead the offense of a team and be a scorer. And that kind of brings us into who we're going to put as our second pick. And that's Donovan Mitchell. I believe Marco also agrees with me. Marco's on the Donovan Mitchell wave too.
I'm on that Donovan Mitchell wave. And keep in mind, never mind. Go ahead, Kale. I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead.
All good.
It happens.
Yeah. So like I was saying before, Donovan Mitchell is like, he's a sort of similar case to Jason Tatum. And it was interesting with how low he was actually picked in this draft class. He was picked originally, I believe, at like 13, but he's another guy that, especially this season, he's shown that he can really step up and just be the catalyst on a contending team. The Utah Jazz this season are one of the best teams in the West, and they have the proper supporting pieces around him, but that is primarily because of Donovan Mitchell and their leader, and how he sort of stepped up and accepted what his role on the team is going to be, and he's now capable of doing that. So Donovan Mitchell is at number 2 in this class.
100%. I agree, Kale. I think that's a solid pick. And I'm surprised he fell to 13, man. Like that's pretty low.
It really just shows that, like, it's why the draft is so exciting, right? Because
real, man.
You can get a guy at like 13, or like even OG was picked. What I believe we picked OG at 23, and we're gonna have him very high up in this draft. And it's we were arguing about it off camera, but anyways.
All right, third pick. Okay, so I think there could be some arguments for who could be drafted third, but I think the NBA had it kind of right with De'Aaron Fox drafted at 5, but I think De'Aaron Fox should be the next person off this board. We still have Bam. We still have, I think it's kind of between Bam or De'Aaron Fox. What do you think?
I agree. It should be De'Aaron Fox. Bam is definitely close, and honestly, like Bam will probably come in at number 4. But De'Aaron Fox just kind of like, for some reason, like I feel like taking a guard high up with the skill set of De'Aaron Fox, where he's fast, he's a good playmaker, he can score, he can really attack downhill very well. it's harder to get the skill set in a guard that De'Aaron Fox possesses versus just getting a serviceable big man. So just because of like,
Bam is more than a serviceable big man, bro.
No, I know.
But I know what you're saying.
I'm saying that the position in terms of like what its role needs to be for your team to be successful, it's easier to fill out a center and a power forward than it is to fill out the guard scorer who is your star on your team and your primary ball handler. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah, I agree with you.
I think it's very close, but just because of that positional difference, I would take De'Aaron Fox earlier.
Yep. And I agree with you there. De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite young players in the NBA. He got my Instagram follow. Great guy. I've watched some videos of him. He has a funny YouTube channel. And I love De'Aaron Fox. Sucks that he's on the Kings, man.
One interesting thing we should probably be talking about is who these players are actually going to.
Yeah, so
we missed that. So De'Aaron Fox would be going to the Boston Celtics.
Celtics.
So
Jason Tatum on the 76ers.
Yeah.
We'd have Donovan Mitchell going to Los Angeles, and we have De'Aaron Fox going to Boston. So the next pick is Phoenix, the Suns.
Hold on 1 second. Just imagine that big three in Philadelphia of Simmons, Tatum, and Embiid. Oh my God.
That's crazy.
That would just be filthy.
That would be filthy. Yeah, man. It's crazy with that Fultz was such a bust. Like, obviously, he had some like weird kind of injuries, like not even injuries, like lasting injuries and like psychological things going on with him. But if you look at who else was just below him, like a couple picks, like Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, even Lonzo to an extent, but especially Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, like that big three is quite frankly pretty fucked. It's a great big three.
Yeah. So anyways, next, as you mentioned, the Phoenix Suns, we have them taking Bam Adebayo. Like you said, Bam is kind of just a big man that he transcends the role of the traditional big. Fantastic playmaker. He can really kind of create his own shot. He's decent from the mid-range. And Bam is a guy that offensively and defensively over the past 2 seasons, he's really just stepped into his own. So that would be a very interesting pick for the Suns at 4, where they took, I believe in 2017, they took Josh Jackson. So
the
Phoenix Suns the Phoenix Suns could be looking a lot different if they took Bam instead of Josh Jackson.
And dude, the Phoenix Suns are good right now.
Yeah.
So imagine if you just, because Josh Jackson is like, well, I don't even, he's probably still on their team, but he doesn't really do much. So imagine if you just plot Bam Adebayo in there.
When was DeAndre Ayton drafted 2018 or 2019?
I think 2018. I think he was the first overall pick in the 2018 draft. So Josh Jackson didn't do much help in the 2017 season.
So this is just an interesting proposition. If the Phoenix Suns take Bam Adebayo at 4, how do you think that changes the DeAndre Ayton pick? Do you think that we see them because that draft, right, was
true.
Ayton, Bagley, Luka, and Trey. So do you think that
they might have taken like Luka or something?
They might have taken like Luka or Trey Young.
Which would be ridiculous. To be fair, like their team, which is crazy, right? Because their team right now is really good. The Suns are on an amazing streak. They're one of the best teams in the entire league, not only the conference. It's just interesting how the draft shakes up. And the, as we're talking, this is 2017, 2018. It's like only a couple years prior.
We're only 4 years removed from this.
4 years removed, exactly. And the amount of impact that those 4 years have on a team's trajectory is so amazing. And just, we probably should have prefaced this at the beginning, and this is what I forgot that I was going to say, is that the reason we're doing the 2017 draft is because we feel like we have a solid understanding of who these players are now and their trajectory in the NBA, that we can make a reasonable assessment of their talent. That's the reason we picked 2017 and not like 2019 or whatever. And it's also 2017 is a fun draft as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love Bam Adebayo to the Suns. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the 2018 draft would look so much different as well. You want to move on to 5?
Yeah, let's move on to 5.
Okay. So at 5, we have Sacramento is the team selecting off the board. And De'Aaron Fox, unfortunately, is already gone. So let me just pull up the players real quick. Okay, so there's a lot of players still on the board, a lot of valuable players still on the board. We have John Collins on the board. We have Jonathan Isaac. We have Lonzo. We have Markkanen. We have OG. We have Jared Allen. Personally, I know you might disagree with me here, but I think that the player to choose is probably John Collins or maybe Jonathan Isaac.
And this is where we disagreed pre-recording. I think that in terms of just fit in the modern NBA, at 5, I'm taking OG Anunoby. OG's isolation stats are absolutely just off the charts. He ranks in the 94th percentile in isolation defense. He surrendered 0.6 points per possession when he guards a guy one-on-one. Of players that have played 48 games, this ranks immediately behind Kawhi Leonard. As you know, as a Raptors fan, and as I know, and anybody probably watching this probably has some sort of fandom attachment to the Raptors as well. OG over the past couple of years has really developed his offensive game as well. His 3-point shot looks a lot better. He's become that classic, just 3-and-D wing that you just want to build your team around. That being said, and this is the reason that I'm picking OG over these other guys, is that he's shown that his ceiling is higher. OG has a level of his offense that he has not yet tapped into. We see flashes of it when OG, when he puts the ball on the floor and he attacks downhill and he uses his strength to really just get into the paint and just dominate other players because he's too strong for most guys to guard. So the reason that I'm taking OG at 5 is because he already has that strong defensive and shooting foundation to his game. And he's shown flashes that he can build on that to become an even more complete player. And when he does that, look out. OG's going to take off.
Yeah, look out. OG Anunoby. All right, bro. I am into putting him at 5 because I think it's just jokes. And I think it's not a bad pick. I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm saying that I think the majority of NBA fans would disagree and would probably have John Collins or maybe Jonathan Isaac.
I know they would disagree.
Exactly. But because it's fun, because it's a mock draft, and, the Kings, maybe for me, the Kings would probably take maybe John Collins in this scenario or maybe Jonathan Isaac because they have shown to be more they've shown to be more better one-on-one scorers, I guess. OG he's not a great ball handler. He is a good shooter for sure. But as me and you both know, as Raptors fans, you don't really want to see an ISO, an OG ISO, where he's kind of facing up, dribbling the ball. It's never a good look.
It might not be exactly right now, but the reason I'm okay with it is because he shows flashes of being able to do it. And I just think with OG has shown that he's a player that he's very coachable and he is capable of developing parts of his game that he needs to. He's very aware of where he lacks. It was even shown do you remember last offseason there was a lot of buzz around that OG spent the entire offseason working on his handle because that was the weakest part of his game. OG is very, very coachable and he's a very just smart basketball player. And I think that I don't know. I can't see him just not developing that part of his game more because he understands that he needs to.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, man, I rate the pick. I love OG. He's a great player. I think in my own world, I see John Collins as having John Collins or Jonathan Isaac, one of those players, probably pushing out OG with this specific pick. However, I rate the pick and it's lit. And I say we move on. And I think with the next pick, personally, I would take John Collins. But also I could see an argument for Jonathan Isaac. I don't know if you have any opinion on that.
To be honest, I think that this one probably just stays the same in the redraft. The Orlando Magic just take Jonathan Isaac as pick number 6.
I'm into that.
Before Jonathan this one definitely is a toss-up between John Collins and Jonathan Isaac, because John Collins has shown flashes of just being a lot more capable offensively. However, he has struggled a lot this season and sort of regressed in that department. And Jonathan Isaac is kind of a similar case to OG, except he's more raw, and he's slightly bigger, and he plays a little bit of a different role. But
yeah, it's another guy who's a fantastic defender, Jonathan Isaac.
Jonathan Isaac, like pre-injury, he was showing flashes of being like a potential like multi-time defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Before he tore his meniscus I believe it was his first severe injury that he has. I know he had another one that was a big setback for him, unfortunately. Since then, he was leading the NBA like well into the season with, I believe it was like over 3 blocks per game. Like
the man was snapping.
He's an absolutely just incredible rim protector. And I think because of that, just showing that flash of just defensive capability, the offensive game can grow from there. Whereas like with John Collins, he's a little bit too, he's not like a traditional center. He's more of a power forward. He's a little bit too small to be a great rim protector. And while he might be better offensively, like right now, Jonathan Isaac shows he still has the capability to become a more complete player down the line, I think. But
and I agree with those. I agree with the statements that you're saying there. John Collins isn't known for his defense. He is more of an offensive player. I think right now, the problems that John Collins has been having, like this year, how I know I drafted him in fantasy thinking he was going to have a great year. And it was kind of an oversight for me. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but in hindsight, I should have known that all these new players to Atlanta, this new system that they're running, and just kind of this whole kind of rebuild process that they're doing around Trae Young would possibly hurt John Collins' ability to be the best player that he can be, because there's all these players in Atlanta. But I think John Collins, I mean, what we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. John Collins would be going to Minnesota, and I think John Collins could excel in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great pick for Minnesota. I think it can work out for them well in the future.
I know we were drafting just based on best player available, but do you think that Minnesota? Do you think that they would take John Collins at this pick?
I mean, it's a good complementary position to Cat to have another player that's like, good rebounder, good scorer. And I know that in the free agency market this year, the Timberwolves were looking for a power forward as well. So to maybe be able to fill that gap would be good. And I guess obviously at this time of the draft, they didn't have D'Angelo Russell.
One interesting thing to note here as well is that pick number 7 in real life, the Timberwolves actually selected Lauri Markkanen, and they traded him to the Chicago Bulls for him and Zach LaVine in what I believe was part of the Jimmy Butler deal.
Yes. So oh my gosh.
That's an interesting thing to note as well, of that this piece would have then just been moved to Chicago for Jimmy Butler.
Wow. Yeah, dude, that's very interesting. And it's pretty clear that the Bulls worked out well for the Bulls, at least in that trade, because Zach LaVine is a phenomenal player.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler played there for like a year and a half. And then he
fuck their starters with their bench and then just dipped.
Yeah. But I agree about John Collins at 7. So should we move on to 8?
Yeah, let's move on to 8. So I think after 7, personally, I see there being a little bit of a drop off in talent here. We still have players, Lonzo Ball. We have Lauri Markkanen, Lauri Markkanen at one point, I was like so high on Lauri Markkanen. Like that guy was my daddy, bro. Like Lauri Markkanen, I loved. And I've fallen off the hype train a little bit just because he hasn't really shown anything amazing recently. But so we have Lonzo, we have Fultz, we have Markkanen, we have Kuzma, we have Jared Allen, and we have some other good players as well. But I think those are the ones that we should be choosing from.
To be honest, I think right here is where you take Lonzo Ball.
I agree.
Lonzo kind of like and we've argued about this quite a bit in the past. He kind of suffered a little bit in that Lonzo came in with so much hype that it was almost impossible for him to live up to where he was drafted. And while obviously we all know that Lonzo Ball has not met his draft value. However, he's produced as a solid player for the Pelicans this year. Like he's a completely serviceable starting point guard. He's a good playmaker. He's improved his shot quite a bit, which was kind of an issue with him coming in. And I think Lonzo Ball is a fine pick at 8.
For sure. And the thing is that even in our redraft, he makes the top 10, right? And if you look at other players drafted in the top 10, such as in real life, right? Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, or something like that. I can never pronounce his name. And Josh Jackson, clearly Lonzo is, leagues above these guys, right? And I'm a Lonzo fan. I think he's a fantastic defender. He's becoming a really good shooter. Obviously, he's an amazing passer. That's kind of what he's known for. And I think he fits in really well on the Pelicans. And I think he's going to have a bright future. And me and you had an interesting argument about Lonzo at one point, and I was thinking that he would be an all-star. And initially, I think you were saying that he wouldn't be like a starting all-star. But I don't think he will either. But I think he will be an all-star one day. And I'm in on Lonzo. I think he's a good player. Yeah, a reserve. Probably never a starter. But I think he's a good player. And I'm in on this pick at 8.
Yeah, I think he's a fine player. I don't think he'll be an all-star, but that's an argument for another time.
Exactly. And he'd be going to the Knicks too. And the Knicks, I think that's a good fit. Like a Ball brother going to the Knicks, the city would like that pick.
Yeah, well, Gar won't have to try to fucking request that he gets traded to New York.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's already there. Bro, his dad must have been so cheesed when he went from the Lakers to from Los Angeles to New Orleans. Yeah, cheesed. All right, so pick number 9. We still got some good players on the board. I think personally, it's between 3 players in my opinion. I'm not a big Kuzma fan, but it's between Jared Allen, Markkanen, and Markelle Fultz, and I guess Kuzma too. But I think those are the next 4 best players. In my opinion, I think Jared Allen is the pick here.
I agree with you that Jared Allen's the pick. That's what I was thinking as well. Especially Jared Allen, especially this year, has really just come into his own as a true starting center. He was kind of in my opinion, being held back on the Nets a little bit. They weren't really utilizing him properly with the constant stream of big men they had playing in front of him. They played DeAndre Jordan in front of him for a long time for some reason. But now that he's on Cleveland, he's this isn't a guy that like we discussed with Lonzo earlier, this isn't a guy that's going to be a star, but he's going to be just a very good to above average starting center on a decent team. And I think that at this point in the draft, you need to have realistic expectations that not everybody's going to be a superstar. So I think you take Jared Allen here and you just get a nice positional big man.
Yeah, I agree, man. And also Jared Allen's he's as you were saying, a traditional big man, which often doesn't excel in the NBA the way teams want them to. And I think, the NBA is transitioning away from these traditional big men. But Jared Allen, because of how amazing he is at rim protecting and also is at rebounding, he provides something that a lot of big men don't. He's almost kind of a more a little bit of a Rudy Gobert type, I guess, in my opinion.
Yeah, a little bit. He could definitely move around the floor a little bit. He's a little bit more mobile than other big men. And one part of Jared Allen's game that I've really noticed a lot this season that I like is that he's not a guy that you don't have to worry about him being out of position. He doesn't necessarily get a lot of rebounds and blocks just because he's just big, but he gets them because Jared Allen, he knows how to move off of screens very well. He never gets caught too far away from the paint to the point where he's not quick enough to get back and adjust if he needs to. He's just a very smart player, and he knows how to play his role on a team very, very well, especially on defense.
Yeah, facts. I'm a big Jared Allen fan. Great player. Okay, so rounding out the first 10 picks, we still have Kyle Kuzma, Markelle Fultz, and Markkanen, I think, are the next 3 best players. And And I personally think Markkanen should go 10. I think he I feel like he just needs to take another step. But this man is pretty much 7 feet tall, deezed, extremely athletic, water, and just, can stretch, can score inside. And I think he can provide so much, and he's shown real, successful flashes.
You're reading my mind here. I was gonna say Lauri Markkanen too.
Okay, blast. Perfect. We'll put him in.
Even though he's struggled up until this point, I think that just like that being on the Bulls under Boylan for so long, where he was kind of just like stuck in the doghouse, really just it really just hurt his development as a player. And I don't think that he's going to reach the potential that he was once hyped up to be. But at pick number 10, if you see a guy that's 7 foot and he can kind of score at multiple levels of your offense, you have to just take him. The potential is just too high. And like you said before, he's shown flashes where he's been so successful that it feels like every year Lauri Markkanen is right on the cusp. He's right on the cusp of figuring it out, but it doesn't seem like he ever does. But it's not too late for him. He's still very young. He still has a lot of time to figure it out, and I think he'll be a fine player.
Yeah, dude. Last point about Markkanen before the 2019 season, in the offseason, I was watching Lauri Markkanen hype videos, and I remember he gained like 30 pounds in muscle or something like that. And I was so fired up for Markkanen. I was like, I'm going to draft him in fantasy. Like, he's going to be so effing good. He's going to be the leader of the Bulls. Like, oh man, I was just so in on Markkanen.
Now he's on the bench playing behind Thaddeus Young.
I know, bro.
The leader of Marco's fantasy team.
Yeah, literally. Oh man, I bought into the Markkanen hype too much. Let me know in the comments if you're on the Markkanen hype train as well. All right. Going in to pick 11. I think you know what? I think I'm going to read your mind, and I think I know what you're going to pick. But who do you think? Me to name off the players, but
I think that you take Markelle Fultz here.
Yeah, I agree. That's who
I think you take Markelle Fultz.
I read your mind.
Right? He recovered well from his setbacks earlier in his career, and for a while, like on the Magic, right before he got hurt, he was looking very good. Like Markelle was gaining a lot of confidence. He was shooting a lot better. He was really like able to use his size and his athleticism to just attack and drive into the paint and just be a like great playmaker for the Magic. He unfortunately had that like just devastating injury, and you hate to see it for a guy, especially like Markelle, who's just like he's just had
had a rough go.
He's already had such a rough go, and he already has just such pressure from being the first overall pick that he just hasn't lived up to. So that's a side note, but that's just very unfortunate. But he showed that he was able to recover from that very well, and he was really starting to turn it around on the Magic, and people were just starting to get excited about him again before he got injured. So yeah, you take Markelle at 11. Yeah,
and he still has that same, like, obviously not the same ceiling that people thought, but the athleticism and the moves and the basketball IQ are still there.
He still has the tools.
He still has the tools. Exactly.
We almost haven't even gotten the opportunity to see him though.
Yeah. He was like kind of just coming into his own and then suffered that injury, and it's sad. And I think that pairing of in real life, I think the pairing of Fultz and Isaac and also Cole Anthony now, that trio, like that young, developed, kind of underdeveloped trio that has so much room to grow. Bright future for the Magic. And we talked about it in another bit. I like that they blew up their whole team, but they kept those 3 players. So I rate that. All right.
Let's move on to pick
12. Okay. Pick 12. I think, let me name off a couple players. So we got Kyle Kuzma still on the board. We got Derek White. I'm a pretty big Derek White fan. I like Derek White. We got Malik Monk. We got Monte Morris. I know you really like Dylan Brooks. We got Dylan Brooks still here. We got Josh Hart. I don't know if you have, Kale, I don't know if you want to do this, but do you want to go to the next page on your screen just to show the audience what they're still available?
Yeah, so these are guys that we've got available here. And
we put it in a random order so it wouldn't like influence our decisions.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we did it.
That is why we did it. Yeah.
Here, to be honest, I think I'm taking Dylan Brooks here.
Oh, okay.
Dylan Brooks is he's shown that he's really like the thing that I like about him is that he's a very aggressive player on offense. Like Dylan, and especially because he'd be going to the Pistons here, right? And that's something that they've kind of needed is just that a primary scoring option on their offense. And Dylan Brooks tries to be that in Memphis. It doesn't. Sometimes it tends to conflict with John Morant, and because John Morant obviously like should be the main guy on the Grizzlies.
Sure. Yeah.
But the encouraging thing about Dylan Brooks as a player is that he's completely willing to just be the guy and just like he'll attack defenders. He'll play in isolation. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's able to look for a shot. He's decently big. He can get inside. I really like Dylan Brooks. He's a guy that
snapping when Ja was injured too.
Yeah. Like he's sort of just like he's just a natural scorer. And I think that on a team like the Pistons, if you can get that at 12, that's great for you.
Yeah, he's got that gritty attitude works definitely works with that Detroit culture. You know. Yeah, I like that pick. I also really like Derek White, and I would vouch for Derek White to go with the next pick. I like that we're sleeping on Kuzma, and I'm all right sleeping on Kuzma. I'm not a massive Kuzma stan. And I was about to say, like, you know, maybe we'll get some hate from some Lakers fans, but I don't even really know if Lakers fans are that.
I don't think Lakers fans even like Kuzma at this point.
Yeah, like, same.
Nobody likes. Do you remember when Kuzma, like probably even just like 2 years ago, he was considered like widely
better than Ingram.
He was widely considered the best out of Ingram, Lonzo, and himself.
Yeah,
but it's funny just
how the Lakers kept them, bro.
Until the Lakers kept them, and now it is completely parallel. It's in fact it went even in complete opposite because I believe the order was considered Kuzma, Lonzo, Ingram.
Ball. I know,
and now Ingram's like a 25-point per game scorer, mini Kevin Durant. Lonzo's like improved a lot, and Kuzma's just fucking nosedived and got way worse.
Yeah, I'm okay sleeping on Kuzma a little bit longer. So
no, but to be honest, like I would take Kuzma at 13 with Memphis
over Derek White.
Yeah.
Okay, over Thomas Bryant.
Yeah.
Over Josh Hart.
Yeah.
Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah. Oh, Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of.
No, I agree. I just yeah. He can dunk really well.
Okay. The thing with Kuzma that I feel like is that we can't, as much as Kuzma's kind of just like a meme, we can't just ignore what the potential that he showed in the early years of his career, and the fact that he didn't meet the expectations that were put on him, whether they were realistic or not, doesn't detract from that. He still showed that he was a fantastic young player at one point on that Lakers team. And another thing with Kuzma as well versus these other guys is that we have to consider that in this day right now, Kuzma plays an entirely different role on his team. And he plays a much bigger role than guys like Derek White and guys like Josh Hart. Like when we talk about those guys, we're talking about guys that are playing maybe like 20 to 25 minutes per game as more role players or like ball handlers off the bench. Kuzma is an everyday starter for the Lakers. And
that is true.
Well, it may be easy to just to buy into the Kuzma stink that like frankly, like I'm guilty of putting the stink on Kuzma as well, just because it's like he's kind of just like funny. He's kind of just funny looking and just does weird things.
Like weird fashion, and he's like way overhyped. It's funny.
He was maybe overhyped at one point.
That's what I mean. Sorry.
We can't sell short the fact that Kuzma is an everyday starter on a good NBA team, on a championship contender.
That is true. And he has the ability to snap every once in a while as well.
Like, but by himself, he might not be the guy that we once thought he was, but credit to Kyle Kuzma, he's shown that he's capable of being a very contributing piece on a championship winning roster.
Yeah, and I could see him dating a Kardashian at some point too. He seems like that kind of guy. So
he probably already has, to be honest.
Yeah, he probably already has. Okay, we'll put the big poos at pick 13. Okay, dude, I lagged out for a while there, so I'm glad that you were just rambling on about Kuzma.
Yeah. Sorry,
I don't know. No, it's good, bro. I was worried that you were gonna say something to me, and I was just gonna be sitting there doing
like
nothing.
frozen.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you see it, but if you see me frozen, just keep going.
All right.
Yeah, which you did. So thank you. Okay, so next pick is pick 14. And we still have some pretty decent players on the board. I am still pushing for Derek White.
Yeah, I think here's where you take Derek White. You were definitely on the right track of the last pick. I just think that Kuzma's shown that he's, in my opinion, he's shown that he's just capable of taking on a little bit of a bigger role than Derek White thus far, which is why I would just rather take him at pick 13. But yeah, Derek White he's a fine player here. He's sort of started to step into his own in San Antonio. Derek White's pretty good. Great ball handler. I don't know if he comes off the bench for them right now.
I think he does. I think it's DeJounte Murray is their starting point guard. Mm-hmm. Or maybe DeJounte Murray is their starting shooting guard.
Murray's their starting point guard. I think Derek White might play shooting guard for them. I think they play DeRozan at small forward.
Okay.
I feel like
that makes sense.
I'm not exactly versed in my San Antonio rotation, but I do know that Derek White, like, Pop loves him. He plays a good role on that team, and yeah,
and Pop loves him for a reason. Like if Pop loves him, then we should put some respect on his name. You know?
Yeah, we're getting to the point of the draft around the middle of the first round, end of the lottery, where if these guys are turning into just everyday contributors or role players, like, you're happy with the pick.
Exactly.
You're not getting the best of the best at this point in the draft.
Yeah, and I think that any draft, if you go back in the draft and you do a redraft of the first 30 picks, the first 10 to 20, not 10 to 20, but the first, number 1 to pick 20, somewhere in that range, it ends. There's like a, maybe pick 16 or 17 where they stop becoming good or great players to role players and just players that kind of make the NBA. Mm-hmm. There becomes a transition almost. And I think we're reaching that transition at this point in the draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with the next pick, we have pick 15. I'll name off some players on the board still. We still have Josh Hart. We still have Monk. We still have Luke Kennard. He's doing like this lit, like 3 in the air picture. We still have Ogilvy, Ferguson, Bacon, Bell, Morris, Zach Collins. Man,
just go.
I don't know.
Deviating outside of the guys you just mentioned there. Yep. Here, I think the Portland Trailblazers take Monte Morris at number 15. Monte Morris is a guy that it's like he's not too flashy of a player, but you know what you're getting with him. And what you're getting a guy who's very reliable. You know that when Monte Morris comes onto the floor, he's going to be a very, very strong defensive player, and he can kind of contribute on the offensive end of the floor when needed. And like I said before, that's something that if you can get that at this point of the draft, just a guy to come off your bench, sort of act as your sixth man, sort of, and just like be capable defensively and also capable of running your offense. You're happy with that at pick 15.
Yeah, and right now Monte Morris is playing on the Nuggets, and the Nuggets do have a lot of scoring options. So it's not like Monte Morris really gets his time to shine that much. So yeah, I think Monte Morris is a good pick here.
Yeah,
I like it.
And another thing with Monte Morris is that he's sort of shown that he's able to perform in the playoffs too. Like, he was a big part of Denver's Western Conference Finals run a while, and he provided an excellent complement to Jamal Murray in their backcourt.
Yeah, no, I'm into that. I'm into that pick. All right, moving on. I think we can speed things up a little bit. I'm in on Thomas Bryant here personally. I don't know if there's a player that is really speaking to you, but I think Thomas Bryant is also a very good center, and yeah, he provides a lot to the team. And I'm in personally on Thomas Bryant. I don't know if you have another pick, but that's who I'm pushing for.
Yeah, Thomas Bryant would definitely be up for consideration here. I think that Malik Monk would be a good pick here as well. That he's not the strongest defensive player, but he does show flashes on offense of being like he's able to like penetrate into the lane very well and sort of stretch the floor as well. And I think going to the Bulls, that would just be an excellent like complement to their offense. But we're almost at the point of the draft where we're pulling at straws here between certain players. But
I agree. I'll plop those guys in side by side.
Alrighty.
Yeah. But yeah, I messed with Thomas Bryant. He's a good player. He's averaging like mid-teens this year in points. And I think he suffered a pretty bad injury this year, right?
Yeah, he tore his ACL.
Yeah, which is pretty sad. He was putting up good numbers. Like I know he was rostered in our fantasy league and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rostered in the fantasy league is my definition of of what makes a good player.
So we had Thomas Bryant to the Bulls and Malik Monk to the Bucks. At
Malik Monk to the Bucks. All right, I like that.
16 and 17.
Okay.
So down to 18, we have the Indiana Pacers selecting. Do you have anybody that you think the Pacers would want to pick here?
You know, I do like Bacon. Good food, decent player. I like Zach Collins here as well. Zach Collins, good player. And I think those two guys are probably my top two. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that we're looking at a similar case that we were looking at with Kyle Kuzma earlier, in that we're ignoring a guy here that while he didn't live up to his hype and his draft capital, that he's a regular everyday contributor on an NBA team, and that's Luke Kennard.
Luke Kennard, yeah.
Like Luke Kennard's on the Clippers now, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
And I know for a lot of this season, Luke Kennard he sort of played almost a similar role to what Kuzma would, in that he's not your second or even like your third option really, but he's a guy that you can just confidently throw out there. You know that he's going to knock down open shots, he's going to play decent defense, and he's going to be able to just give you like around like 25 minutes a game off your bench, just as a solid rotational piece. So here I would have the Indiana Pacers taking Kennard.
I'm in on that pick. And speaking of picks, his pick is pretty lit as well. So I'm about it. Look at him tossing up that three ball. He had a good college career, man.
He did.
He has a bad hairline and a good college career. Yeah. All right. Moving on. We have still available Dennis Smith Jr., Zach Collins, Josh Hart. I don't want to keep naming them off every single time. I think Josh Hart should go here. Josh Hart is a great player, good scorer, and I thought he was old for some reason. But
he just
apparently
looks
he's
old.
not. He does look kind of old, but yeah, I'm in on Josh Hart, man. He's a good scorer.
Yeah, I like putting Josh Hart here too. He's
okay.
Josh Hart doesn't really get credit for what he does. He's another one of those guys that it's like he's never going to be that flashy like big name option, but he's a fine role player, and that's important on a successful team.
Yeah, I agree. And this year, man, he's playing 29 minutes a game. He puts up 9 points, shoots well, and also 8 rebounds. It's a lot of rebounds for Josh Hart.
Good for you, Josh Hart.
Yeah, good for you, Josh Hart. Stay on those boards, guy. All right, moving on. Okay, you want to just speed around these picks? So like you do one, I'll do one, you do one, I'll do one.
All righty. Yeah, sure. So I'll do this one. Number 20, we have the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think that they select the guy that eventually ends up on their team, and that's Zach Collins. Zach Collins is a really good floor spacing big man, although his defense, it leaves a little bit to be desired. to be desired. But yeah, Collins, this is another guy that he struggled with injuries a lot throughout his career, but I'm having trouble talking. Pre-injury, Zach Collins was like, he's starting to show flashes of being like a really like solid rotational big man for Portland. He's just, if you can get a big man that can stretch the floor at this point in the draft, that's kind of the direction that the NBA is moving. And I think that the Blazers take Collins here.
Yeah, I agree. Who has the next pick in the draft, Kale, do you have that open right now?
Yeah, so the next pick is the Thunder have it.
Oh, okay. I'm going with the Thunder selecting Dennis Smith Jr. They don't have Westbrook on their team.
Good pick.
And they want just an explosive dude who can just dunk. And I think that's what Dennis Smith Jr. provides. Obviously, he provides more than just that. But keep in mind, this was a guy with a lot of hype coming into the draft. And obviously, he didn't live up to his hype exactly. But I think he can provide coming to OKC. And they kind of have a team where anyone right now can kind of ball out and just do whatever. So I think Dennis Smith Jr. and maybe Dort can lead the tank of OKC in this current season. And, while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sits with an injury and everyone else on their team sits with injuries that they just made up. So I think Dennis Smith Jr. is a good pick here.
Yeah,
dude, they made up injuries for Dort. Like Dort is just, as soon as Dort started playing well, they were like, oh, no, you're injured.
He has an infected left pinky toe.
Yeah.
Out for 2 weeks.
It's so obvious. Like they're just making up injuries at this point. It's hilarious.
But, yeah. Would you mind for pick 22 just reading me some of the guys we have on the board here?
No, I don't mind at all. I can read you every guy on the board. So
wow.
There's not that many. We got Terrence Ferguson. We got Semi Ojeleye. We got Harry Giles, Dwayne Bacon, Jordan Bell, TJ Leaf, Josh Jackson, who was the 4th overall pick. We got Tony Bradley and Frank Ntilikina. I think that's how you pronounce it. Probably wrong. But those are the players we got on the board. Who you picking?
So I think at 22 to the Brooklyn Nets, I'm going to pick Frank Ntilikina here. Frank Ntilikina, that's a guy. Offensively, he's always just left a lot to be desired. Just back when he was playing regularly for the Knicks, and that's honestly part of the reason why I think they decided to move off for them, because it's tough to have a point guard that just struggles so much offensively, just running your team, especially when your team doesn't. The Knicks didn't have the surrounding pieces around Frank Ntilikina to sort of make up for his offensive deficiencies. But he was a guy that coming into the league, he was an NBA ready defender. So I think that given more time on the Brooklyn Nets, I believe at this time they have D'Angelo Russell on their team as well. In this alternate universe, they play Frank Ntilikina off the bench. He doesn't have to take on as big of a role because of the presence of D'Angelo Russell and guys like Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie on this era of the Nets. And you give him more time to sort of just develop his offensive game to just build on his sound defense already.
Yeah, I'm in on that pick.
You get the Raptors pick here, 23.
Oh, damn, bro. All right, you know what? I'm picking Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson with the 4th overall pick obviously left a lot to be desired. However, Josh Jackson on the Raptors might not. The Raptors have an amazing development, developing young players, and I think that's, even when I think it was Baines, maybe it was Len, but I'm pretty sure when Baines got signed to the team, what he said he was excited about is that the Raptors are known for their skills in just developing players into becoming amazing talents. And you look at, Van Vliet, OG, Siakam was a 2nd round pick, guys like that. I think we can develop Josh Jackson into maybe not the player he, was expected to be, but a good player. Right now, he's playing 25 minutes a game. He's averaging 14 points. And yeah, he's a decent player. And I think the Raptors, can do a lot with him.
So I agree with the justification behind this pick about the Raptors just having inherently a better development system than the Suns do. Yep. And I agree that if we pick Josh Jackson, his career would have looked probably a lot different. He would have been a little bit more worth his draft capital.
LeBron James, something like that.
Probably like Michael Jordan, but
probably.
The only issue that I would have is taking this is that a big issue with Josh Jackson that he never succeeded on any of the teams he was on is that it was a work ethic thing from my understanding that Josh Jackson, he has the natural talent to be a good player, but he was never really willing to put in the work with really any organization that he was with. And that was just shown that he was sent down to the G League quite a few times. He's been in and out of the league, and it's just I don't know, like we'll leave the pick the same just because of the potential, but Josh Jackson is a guy that, just knowing what we know now, I'd be nervous about drafting.
Yeah, I agree. And clearly, obviously there's some bias here coming in because, we got the Raptors. We care about the organization. We don't want them to draft someone that doesn't care about the game of basketball.
Yeah, even in our fake redraft,
hey, in this scenario, Josh Jackson comes. He loves the city. He meets Drake. Drake takes him to his, takes him on his private plane. They have a great time. He falls in love with the game of basketball. Him and Nick Nurse become best friends. He becomes the best man at Nick Nurse's wedding.
Isn't this the Dwayne Casey era?
Well, yeah. But he, maybe in the first year he doesn't. No, yeah, next year. No, yeah, you're right. This is the last year of Dwayne.
This is the last year of Dwayne.
He doesn't like Dwayne, but Nick Nurse comes in, and him and Nick Nurse.
No. The players love Dwayne. The players love.
That's true. The players did love Dwayne. Well, you know what? Josh Jackson becomes a phenomenal player at this pick, and we get a lot of it. So it's good for the Raptors, and we'll move on. So
all
Kale.
Right. So at 24, we have the Utah Jazz picking, and I think for this pick, I'm going to take just another solid rotational guy, and that's Semi Ojeleye.
That's what I was thinking.
For the Boston Celtics, he's an excellent just 3-and-D player. He can defend multiple positions, and yeah, I just think that for the sake of brevity, Semi Ojeleye, he's a fine rotational player, and that's just the kind of wing that you want on a team like the Utah Jazz that are looking to compete right now.
Yep, I agree. I'm in on that pick. Okay, my turn. Let me think. Okay, so we got Terrence Ferguson, Dwayne Bacon, Jordan Bell, TJ Leaf, Tony Bradley, and Harry Giles. Oh man. Slim pickings here. I think I don't know. What do you think about Tony Bradley with this pick?
25 at the Magic, Tony Bradley.
I'm looking up his stats right now.
Well, I know on the 76ers, Tony Bradley did an excellent job at filling in for Joel Embiid when he was injured for a while. But I believe we had the Magic still taking Jonathan Isaac earlier in this draft. So that being said, I don't think that they take another big man. I think that
that's true.
They would probably want to take a guard here. I could see them taking like Dwayne Bacon potentially.
I like Bacon. I don't know if I like Dwayne Bacon, but I like Bacon. I'm in. I'm down. I'm down for Dwayne Bacon.
All right.
All right. I forgot that I should have asked you whose pick it was.
Yeah. All good.
All right. I'm into them taking Dwayne Bacon. So Dwayne Bacon goes to the Magic. Some Bacon magic at 25.
Magic Bacon.
Magic Bacon. All right. 26, Kale. Who are you thinking?
At 26, I think the Portland Trailblazers take Harry Giles here. He's just another guy that he never really like reached his full potential, but he could step in for them, and behind Zach Collins, he could provide decent depth at either power forward or center. And that's so far just largely what his role has been thus far in his career. And I think he's never going to be a guy that's going to be a starter for you, quite frankly, but he's always been what I thought was a fine player off the bench. So I would take Harry Giles here for Portland.
Okay. Yeah, I rate that pick. All right, let me see. I'm thinking, man, still slim pickings, eh? Tony Bradley. Wait, whose pick is it right now?
We're at pick 27, correct?
Yes.
It's the Nets pick right now.
The Nets pick. I'm thinking Jordan Bell, bro. I honestly, when Jordan Bell was on the Warriors, he's shown some flashes of some athletic abilities, and he was a decent player when I watched him. And once again, I think that the players that are still available are I think transitioning from decent role players to maybe not fantastic role players. But yeah, I think Jordan Bell is an all right pick. With the 27.
Yeah, I'm into Jordan Bell at 27. This is the point of the draft where you're really just kind of taking what you can get.
Yeah.
Who are the three guys we have left on the board?
Tony Bradley, TJ Leaf, and Terrence Ferguson.
Okay, I think at 28 is the Lakers pick, and I think here that I'm gonna take Terrence Ferguson. He's just another sort of similar to Semi Ojeleye. He's a defensive oriented wing that can guard multiple positions, and he can give you some good energy and spark off the bench. And yeah, Terrence Ferguson to the Lakers at 28.
Yeah, I think it's funny that when I pasted him in here, he popped up over Jason Tatum.
Yeah,
don't get ahead of yourself, Terrence Ferguson. Come on, man. You ain't Jason Tatum, baby.
Yeah, plot twist. Terrence Ferguson first overall.
Dude, so before we did this mock draft, I had never heard of TJ Leaf in my life. Never.
Really?
No, I'd never heard of him. And but yeah, so for that reason, I'm going with Tony Bradley. I picked 29. Who selects Tony Bradley? Who's picked 29?
The San Antonio Spurs are picking Tony Bradley at pick 29.
I can see Pop and Tony Bradley getting along well.
So it's
fitting into that
30
into that culture.
Who's the last guy we've got left here?
We got TJ Leaf.
TJ Leaf is going to the Utah Jazz.
All right. Yeah, I rate it. All right. Wow, that was fun, man.
Yeah, that was a really good video. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. So if you're still watching to this point, thank you so much for watching, and let us know in the comments what you think about the 2017 draft. Would you make any modifications to the order that we didn't? Would you include certain players that we may have forgotten about? Just let us know. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Cheers.